Good morning. Welcome to Digital Ship webinar of January 28th on maintenance data, getting it where you need it. In this webinar, you will learn how to turn data into information and the benefits of using maritime digital standard Shipdex and the experiences of companies in using it. Our 4 guest speakers are all executive committee members of Shipdex. I'm happy to introduce you to them. Eugen-Henning Adami, the chairman of Shipdex, Marco Vatteroni, technical manager and director of Shipdex Consulting, Henrik Kaspersen, Shipdex Competence Center leader, and Giampiero Soncini, CEO of IB Marine, that provides software solutions for technical maintenance and energy management. IB Marine is also sponsoring this video and webinar. Thank you very much. We hope that all of you will ask questions and type them anytime. And now I'm immediately passing on to Carl Jeffrey, the founding editor of Digital Ship, to set the scene for today's conversation.
Okay, thank you, Vida. So if you imagine somebody in the airline industry doing maintenance, you're probably going to think of somebody with a mobile device that's got the exact instructions they want for the equipment at the time they need it. So they know exactly what they need to do. And in shipping, we don't have this. We've got paper manuals, or we might have PDF manuals. And to get the right information to the right person at the right time, what we need is a standard way of describing information so the maintenance management software knows exactly what to show someone. So the aviation industry has got exactly this and has had it for a long time. 13 years ago, a group of shipping industry professionals coming from ship operations and software and shipbuilding and equipment supply thought, well, shipping industry should have the same thing. And they got together to develop a standard way to do it based on the system that aviation uses, and they called it Shipdex. Now, it's probably fair to say we don't see widespread adoption of Shipdex in the shipping industry today, but there's been a lot of changes in the shipping industry over the past few years, which makes it much more timely to talk about this. So, you know, some of the changes we've seen in shipping over the recent years, the equipment is getting far more complex and digital. So having the right instructions is much more important. Digital is seen as something the whole shipping industry is involved with, including the senior management, not something they leave to the IT department. And senior management in shipping companies increasingly understand digital technology, and if there's something like this isn't available, they're going to ask why. People see the benefits of having something like this. There's a lot more, so you're making it easier to move data between suppliers and customers. You've got a lot less retyping of information and rework. It means there's a lot of errors you're avoiding, and people understand all of this a lot better. We've got lots of startup companies we hear about who are developing ways to work with maintenance information with mobile devices and headsets and clever tools. And the whole technology sector, I mean, one of the problems in past years, it's been very novelty driven. People want to find something they get excited about, but now we're hearing people get far more practical. They want something that works. And other areas, this whole area of data ownership, because if you've got manuals, information coming from suppliers to owners, there's questions of who made what and who is responsible for what, but people are far more willing to get into the complicated discussions about this. So we're very pleased that we've got nearly all of the original team who launched Shipdex here today, and they've all got long, very exciting careers in the shipping industry, which I'm not going to tell you about now. You can Google them, but I'll just tell you what they're doing at the moment. So Captain Eugen-Henning Adami, who's the chairman of Shipdex, is speaking as president of Cyprus Foundation of the Sea, the Cluster Association of Cyprus. Giampiero Soncini is the CEO of IB Marine. Henrik Kaspersen is from Man Energy Solutions, where he's a technical writer and project manager. And Marco Vatteroni is the technical manager of Shipdex. So I'd like to welcome Captain Eugen-Henning Adami to give his opening talk. Thank you.
I don't know if the sharing is working. Yeah, thank you very much, Carol, for the kind introduction. I'm talking today on behalf of the Cyprus Foundation of the Sea, and of course, in my capacity also as chairman of Shipdex. What I want to do with my opening address is to bring to the audience, to the prestige audience, the idea of Shipdex, as well as where is the shipping industry standing with regard to digital transformation solutions. We all know that digital transformation is used in the shipping industry to a large extent as a marketing tool and as a buzzword. It is unfortunately not fully recognized what digital transformation in reality means when you really talk about business processes. Even the word digitalization, we use it very lightly in the shipping industry, unlike in the aviation industry or in the digital industry. Digitalization, as we all know, means that we have a digital format of information, which we then use through machines, programs, in order to bring that information to an image or to another input device to do something with the information. That is actually what the digitalization is about. And it's a cultural change which is not really taking place with the pace in the shipping industry as one is hoping. We talk about a digital twin and all these beautiful things, but do we have the basic information? It is brilliant in the days of COVID to get over the pandemic by getting vaccinated. But in order to have a vaccination, we have to do research and development. In order to do research and development, we need basic data. We need probants who come and test the vaccine, and data is being recorded, the way how they behave to the vaccination in the process. It is all basic data. In our shipping industry, until today, we do not have the basic data to that extent available in order to make a digital twin. Yesterday, we all experienced an incident just in front of the coast of France, where the Vendée Globe 2020 was supposed to end. A very highly engineered vessel sailing with 20 knots of speed, all electronics, all augmented reality things, all, i.e. what you can imagine, on board of that vessel, perfectly in speed, going there after 80 days to take in a few hours time, maybe the trophy. That vessel, just 90 miles before the coast, after she sailed 29,000 miles, collided with the boom of a fishing boat and the thing stopped. The America Cup, a few days ago, American Magic, all tools available, all systems which are there, which help the sailors to win a race, failed. And the American Magic took off the water like an aeroplane, smashed on the sea and sunk with, almost sunk. So this all tells us that the basic data needs to be more correct. If we don't get the basic data into our computers, into our machines, which we have on board of ships and in offices, if the basic data is not there, we don't achieve our goal ultimately. And my appeal to research and developers and to persons who become engaged in startups, go for the basic data. Go and base your research on basic data. Try to find for a vessel the information related to the equipment in a digital format. Then you are able to do something with the data. Have all the engines, all the pumps, all the electronics, have everything in a digital format available in your database. And then you design a tool to work with this information in order to design something new. Either you design a software which optimizes the equipment on board, which helps the companies to utilize the installed equipment in a better way, or you use that information in order to design a system, a propulsion system, or even you design a complete vessel. This is my appeal. Focus on basic data. We all in the industry need this basic data, all of us. And once we are able to really do this, then we can look at our circular economy, which we all are striving at, that we reuse our materials in order to reuse them again, so that we do not have waste. This is what will help us to reduce our carbon footprint. This is what will help our society to make things to work. But in order to achieve a circular economy, in order to become carbon neutral in the shipping industry, we need the very basic data of the equipment we are using. That is a starting point. It's like the guys who gave their data when they developed the COVID vaccination. And without further ado, I would like to stop here, and I would open the floor to the experts who use Shipdex, who develop Shipdex, and who can tell us in detail how things can work when things are done correctly. Thank you.
Oh, and I'd like to welcome Giampiero Soncini from IB Marine.
Thank you very much. I've been in shipping for 50 years, and I've been selling software in shipping for 33. And therefore, I wanted to start with this sentence to make you understand that I'm really serious when it comes to data. I think that we, as an IT person in the maritime world, we have failed to convince people to understand that software is a tool and data is what matters. So the title of my presentation is Why Data is Important and Software is Not. And the explanation is very simple. You need data to know your fleet. The software is only the tool to organize the data. Where do you need data? Data, when you manage a vessel, when you manage a fleet, data is absolutely everywhere. It's the information about the routing, the fuel consumption, plant maintenance, the equipment, the spares, the work orders, the certificates. Everything you do is basically involves data into it, you know, on the purchase order reports, and especially now that you have to prepare all sorts of reports, not only the financial ones, but of course the new reporting, every type of report that insurance wants and charter wants and so on. It's all coming from data of any type, technical, commercial, whatever you want. And this data must be good, because if the data is not correct, it doesn't matter which software you use. This is a sort of an argument that I had for the last 33 years with all my customers or all my prospects. If I've seen a lot of people always blaming the software without understanding that in reality the software had very little to do with the problems that they had. Most of the time the issues were related with the data that was in the software. And this I've taken two examples, are very, very, very simple. But if you take a main engine, it can abbreviate it as you see here, or it can be written in a different language, like you have here, or it can code it, you know, in a different way. And when you read this, for all of us, we immediately understand that ME, M.E. main engine, main MEng, and so on, they all refer, and beaming Italian motore principale, they all refer to main engine. But for the computer, these are different components. And you have to search every single one of them. The same here with ball bearings, a very typical example that I have been confronted with a million times in my life. And let's not speak about work orders, finding job descriptions which were wrong, and all these kind of things. What does that mean? That if you don't get your data right, then you don't get your information right. It means that you're ordering a spare which is not the right one, which means you're carrying out a job description which has not been updated via the service bulletin, therefore it's outdated, therefore it's wrong, therefore can create problems. And if it is related to a service bulletin that you didn't update, it can create and have problems, it can create insurance issues and so on. So when I talk to people and I tell them, if you use an accounting system that essentially you put the numbers at random, of course, you will never get your financial situation right. And everybody understands it. But when it comes to the technical management, when it comes to the operational management and so on, essentially there is no understanding that you cannot simply insert data randomly or different between one ship and the other, because there you will not be able to use not only the concept of the digitalization that Captain Adami explained, but you will not simply be able to use the software properly. Because correct data means knowledge, while incorrect data means nothing. Essentially, when I go to customers, even the customers who have been using my software for 30 years, most of the time they have a lot of data, but they cannot really make any use out of it. And it's a pity, because data means knowledge. And therefore, they simply used as a sort of a repository of random information, random data. The issue is that correct data is expensive. When I started my career in 1988 selling Amos to the Italian market, we were asking the equivalent of $50,000 to $70,000 of today, maybe $80,000 of today for a correct database, which meant inserting data inside the plant maintenance system in a very, very precise and specific way, one ship after the other, all the ship built like, in identical way. Today, the price has dropped to $6,000, and you can very easily imagine what you can do with $6,000. Even if you work in a low-cost country, it still is very minuscule. And unfortunately, it's still done the same way, because the shipping has constantly neglected the data issue. It has constantly been neglected for the last 33 years. And it's funny how to see, and Marco will talk about it, and of course also Henrik, how the aviation tackled this problem 35 years ago, I think, or maybe even 40 years ago. They concentrated on data because when they were building propeller airplanes, because they felt that the importance of having the exact spare, the exact work order, the exact information, the exact procedure was absolutely paramount to a quality management of their fleet of airplanes. So if you look at this, for instance, in 1988, I started to work with Spectec. Amos was a PMS software, and later also procurement and quality. We were collecting technical manuals for the shipping companies or the shipyard, and painfully and painstakingly inserting all data manually from the manuals into the software. 33 years later, we are collecting technical manuals from the shipping company or the shipyard, and painfully and painstakingly insert all data manually from the manuals into the software. So nothing has changed in 33 years. And this is what I call blabberality. And it's a terminology to say that a lot of people talk. I just 1 week ago, I was in another conference where they were showing virtual reality. And look at this, and it shows that you approach an equipment, and it tells you which wrench to use, what to do, to fix it, and so on. Virtual reality, if you don't insert the right data into it, it doesn't work. It's useless. Like a PMS is useless. Like a quality system is useless if you don't do. And nobody ever tackles the issue or how long or how expensive it is to insert the right data in the right proper way, so that every ship has exactly the same methodology in approaching, an identical work order, identical maintenance, an identical procedure, an identical noon reporting. You go throughout the fleet in the world, and the noon reportings are all different in format, in status, in everything, and they're all done manually, all of them, even if the information is available electronically on board of the ship. So everybody talks about digitalization, and I keep saying, what do you digitalize? Spaghetti, bread, Coca-Cola, do you digitalize underpants so that they can wear themselves on your body automatically? No, it's digitalization of data. But data, if it's not structured, if it's not organized in a proper way, you don't digitalize anything. I'll skip this one because Captain Adami has already spoken about it, you know, what the difference between digitalization and digitalization. But the important thing is that when you're dealing with data, it's also not a PDF file. Anybody who tells me we have digitized our fleet and we are digitalized our fleet, everything is now in PDF format, I really feel like shooting them, because it means that, you know, they should not be in the position they are. And of course, another thing, I found out a lot of people saying, oh, we digitalize all the procedures about fuel consumption. We have given Excel spreadsheet to our people on board and they log in every single number every hour. So you basically load more work into the people that you have on board who are already overloaded. And you get all the problems and all the issues of reading the data manually, the input error, the human factor of making a mistake, of being tired or not having time. You're busy, you have an emergency, you're in port, you cannot do it, and so on. And therefore, digitalizing means collecting as much as possible data on board of the vessel in a digital format, which means, of course, that you have to build the ships so that they are ready for this. We go on board of the ship and we find out that they have fuel flow meters, which have no digital output. You build that new vessel and you save, you know, 2,000 euros because you take a flow meter without a digital output. This is, and we are in 2021, and it still happens because I'm confronted with this almost on a daily basis. So data matters, and digitalization means collecting the right data as much as digitally as possible. And of course, if there is no correct data and if there is no standardization of the data, there is no digitalization. Everybody tells me about digitalization and then they haven't thought on how to handle the data with it. Basically, they're blabbering. They're not talking correctly. And remember, aviation has done this for the last 30 years. They tackled the problem since the very beginning. And today, whether you're buying Boeing airplane or an Airbus or whatever you buy, essentially the technical manuals, the technical information is all written in the same way. It's all standardized. The standards are very precise. They're continuously updated. There is an international organization. Marco will talk about this. And that's it. This is the future. Once you have data, you can take everything remotely, you can control, you can apply machine learning, you can apply software control, you can apply business intelligence and manage your fleet in a much better way. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Giampiero. So I'd now like to welcome Henrik Kaspersen from MAN Energy Solutions, where he's a project manager and technical writer. So I'd like to welcome Henrik. Thank you. You're on mute, I think. So to unmute yourself. Oh. You're still on mute, Henrik. Oh. No.
Sorry. Thank you for that. And thank you all of you for this opportunity to share MAN Energy Solutions' perspective on maintenance data and getting it right. Please allow a few seconds for the slide to change. Yes, from our perspective, it is very clear that things are changing rapidly right now. There is a big move from paper and manual work and into smart solutions. One main driver is being the increased internet connectivity coming from various satellite programs. The market talks about connected vessel, digital twin, and business integration to lower the operation cost, keep premium reliability and safety, and meet legislations. We see the customers investing massively in maintenance system and other IT systems. So systematic maintenance and digital collaboration are in strong focus, and we see a lot of communication and activities around platforms and systems to support this change. But no matter which platform or system is chosen, it is not possible to harvest the benefits if the data behind is not well structured and of good quality. Very often, maintenance data are being filled manually with spare parts and maintenance information, and we have seen a number of cases where the quality could be better. Assistants are doing a great job to enter data, but they may lack the deep maintenance experience, and data may therefore become incomplete, non-uniform, or even wrong. This makes it difficult for customers to produce good forecasts and budgets. Lack of information may also affect safety and reliability and could have an impact on communication between Westland and headquarters. So exactly here is where data directly from the makers come into play. And the foundation of doing it right is to get correct data into the maintenance systems. And for this, we recommend importing data from the makers directly into the maintenance system. This will ensure the correct databases for the plant maintenance system, schedules, spare parts, etc. We see strong wishes for improved maintenance quality and reduced time consumption. We see strong wishes for long-term planning and also to save transportation costs and avoid goods returns. And ultimately, it will prevent last-minute solutions. And long-term planning is exactly the strength of maintenance systems. But it is all about having good data quality. And for this, we have Shipdex, the member-driven standard for exchanging data between makers' publishing systems and owners' maintenance systems. It is non-proprietary and it is not affiliated with any particular company. So what Shipdex then can do, it is meant to replace this manual time-consuming reverse engineering process of creating data for the maintenance system by offering a direct import of data from the makers. We can see here that the maintenance schedule refers to the task or the work cards, and the work cards knows the safety, the tools, and the spares from the catalog. So there is already here a great structure built into the documentation. And our systems are built to deliver this granular data quality to the customers with the task, a schedule, and resources structured and connected. It delivers a complete data set to the maintenance system, and the data is uniform, and it allows for long-term planning. And it is such a shame when it is not being utilized. I'm sorry that something is hidden here. So just to put some figures on this, we have already delivered 552 datasets to low-speed and medium-speed engines, genset propellers, and turbochargers. They have already received the dataset, and it is growing due to a strong interest from ship owners and ship managers, which we see. And we are very pleased to see the strong interest right at this time and consider Shipdex as a core enabler of digitalization in the maritime industry. So turn on and tune in your organization for smart data. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. So I'd now like to welcome Marto Vatteroni, who's the technical manager of Shipdex.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Good morning, everybody. During my presentation, I would like to answer the question, what is a Shipdex? I will have a very short presentation. Maybe I will repeat some concept already covered by the previous speaker. What is a Shipdex? Shipdex, we can consider Shipdex as a common language to standardize the production, exchange, and use of technical, logistic, and also training data for the whole shipping community. As Henrik said, Shipdex is fully independent and it is not a proprietary specification, standard protocol. It is managed by a non-profit organization and is a collection of business rules giving a clear explanation about the rules and the principles that are governing Shipdex, and also writing rules, how to produce Shipdex data in XML format. As Giampiero said, Shipdex is fully compliant with the Aerospace, Defense, and Civil Aviation S1000D specification, a specification that is sponsored by the American Industry Association, by the Aerospace and Defense Industry Association of Europe, and by the Aerospace Air Transport Association e-Business Program. It is in use since more than 30 years ago. Which information are covered by Shipdex? Here we have a list. It is possible to produce Shipdex data for related to every kind of equipment, description and operation, maintenance procedures, troubleshooting, catalogs, service bulletin to update all the information already provided in Shipdex format, maintenance planning, and also learning information to create computer-based training in accordance with the SCORM technology. Every information is in XML format based on mandatory templates. The scope of Shipdex is to move from pages of information in paper or in PDF format. In any case, we have pages of information to information, possibly well stored in what we call common source database. Information. With Shipdex, forget the concept of the manual. All the makers or the Shipdex data producer must focus their attention to produce only all the information relevant to a given equipment. The manual is just an output, is just one of the possible output from a Shipdex data set. This means that we want to go from digitization to digitalization. Here are some main benefits. The data can be accessed very easy and without any kind of problems because they are well stored into a electronic format. Savings. You can imagine we can import the data into IT system without retyping, and the quality is much better because you can imagine retyping thousands of part numbers, how many mistakes you can introduce. So this is a strong way to share information worldwide among companies. Shipdex is good. It's a good tool for every kind of ship, but you can imagine big project, as Captain Adami said, like autonomous ship, digital twin, Shipdex must be a mandatory requirement. Now, what is a common source database? Common source database is a concept. Could be a file system or a good database managed by a good software. Here you can import all the Shipdex data in XML format, but you can also import multimedia contents. I mean, pictures, illustrations, video, animation, audios. And once they are here, you have a number of filters to retrieve the information you want to export, to create, for example, in a couple of minutes, a PDF manual. But most important, to create interactive electronic technical publication or computer-based training in accordance with the shareable content object reference model. That is a methodology created by the United States Department of Defense some years ago to create shareable and standardized computer-based training, sharing the same principle of Shipdex and of course S1000D that is on the basis of Shipdex. This is a standard scenario. Makers can produce their own Shipdex data, maybe importing data from their engineering and ERP system so they can save a lot of time to produce and most important, to update the information. And another very important advantage is that the data in the Shipdex format are fully coherent with the engineering data. From here, makers can export PDF manuals, very simple, but they can export Shipdex dataset to be sent to the customers. Customer can import the data into their common source database. They can have all the offices connected to the database, for example, technical offices, purchase department, to retrieve and maybe exchange information with the common source database. Then with an appropriate Shipdex interface, it is possible to move automatically in few minutes the data from the common source database to ERP or PMS system instead of months of retyping information. And this data can be then deployed as usual on the ships. Now, I would like to do a very quick demonstration about our Shipdex viewer, that is a browser to navigate through Shipdex data. You can download it. Everybody can download the Shipdex viewer free of charge from our website. And it has a lot of features that I will try to show you very, very, very quickly. Before moving to the demonstration, I would like to thank all of you for your interest on behalf of the Shipdex executive member, and here where you can contact me. Now, let's give a look to the Shipdex viewer. This is the Shipdex viewer. You see, we have a lot of functions. I just have, I've opened a data set related to a family of pumps. Here we have the table of content. All the information in this case are grouped by typology of information. We can collapse this, expand this, and here you see a lot of information related to the family of pumps and to every single model of pumps. For example, here we can give a look to installation. Here we have all the text from XML has been converted into HTML on the fly. We have all the data here, operating curves, and we have a lot of information that are immediately presented here. Then we have catalogs. For example, illustrated parts. We can have the illustration. And every line identifies a single spare part. We can give a look to the maintenance task, for example, lubrication. This lubrication must be performed one time after the first 300 working hours, and then every 5,000 working hours or every 12 months. Here we can have the list of required support equipment, supplies, spare part, eventually safety precaution, preliminary operation, and then we have the text of the procedure. And we can have links to other part of the Shipdex dataset. I don't see to the manual. This is the dataset where the information are presented as they have been provided by the maker. We have another important feature, planning. Here we can check and we can group the information by periodicity, for example. Here we have all the tasks that must be performed every 500 working hours. And here, as usual, we have the description. In this case, we need 3 different support equipment, and we have an hyperlink to the catalog where the support equipment have been described. We can give 5,000 working hours. We have the same situation. This must perform every 5,000 working hours. Finally, from here, you can export the information in Excel, and you can also create a PDF manual. I would like to show you very quickly how a PDF manual has been created automatically in, let's say, less than 1 minute using our Shipdex standard layout. The table of content has been automatically created. Every chapter, every paragraph has an hyperlink, for example, 1.9. We go here, and this is the content of this paragraph, 1.9. We can have hyperlink inside the text. For example, we should have here, see figure 1, and here we go to figure 1. Then we can have see figure 2, and we go to figure 2. Or we can go to other parts of the this is a manual because this is an output automatically created from a Shipdex dataset. Okay, I think I spent my time. I thank you for the attention, and I leave the word to Carl.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Marco. Well, we've got a phenomenal list of questions here. I'd like to invite all the panelists to open the Q&A bar. I thought perhaps it might be better if we focus on commercial questions rather than technical ones, because there'd be more time. Maybe Marco can organise a session with the technical questions later. But well, we got Giampiero and Captain Adami here. And one question I had was the whole Corona COVID, as people say, that's got 10 years of digital transformation in 1 year and phenomenal acceleration in people's move towards this kind of tool. So I'll be very interested to hear Giampiero's views if you've seen any acceleration over the past year. I was very interested in Will Murray's comment saying, I think he said that before you mentioned the standard, but he says, wouldn't it be great to have a standard for where all the suppliers give information in the same standard, which I think is exactly what you presented. But maybe should I invite Giampiero and Captain Adami? If I don't know if there's any questions you'd like to choose yourself to pick up, because there's a bit too much for me, or if you've got any comments on what I've just said you'd like to add, maybe.
I'm very grateful to all the questions, and it's delighted to see the interest in here. When you scroll through the questions, it transpires actually that there is a need for a standard, because people are asking in this chat, is there any alternative, maybe this or maybe that? So we do not have a standard. And yes, it is true that the information from makers is sometimes inconsistent when makers are using licensees to produce their equipment or subcomponents. That is exactly why you need Shipdex, and that is exactly why you need to get into a closer dialogue with your supplier. Through this, you will eventually be able to control the chain from the original design via a licensee to what is manufactured. The problem what you experience on board of ships with single components which don't fit is exactly because there has been a modification to the initial design. So the solution to this is to engage with the manufacturers, original designers via Shipdex, and then they have a responsibility according to the protocol of Shipdex to enter into the dialogue with their licensees to ensure that eventually you receive the data of the equipment as installed on board of your vessel in Shipdex format. So go straight to the maker and demand from the maker that you want to have this information, rather than to say, okay, it's difficult and then I better don't ask for it. So it's better to go straight to the makers with a very strong request. Give me this. You have all the right to ask for this. Thank you.
Oh, Giampiero, I don't know where we want to start, but maybe you've got a better idea than me.
All the questions are extremely interesting, of course. One thing is important. Shipdex, the best use of Shipdex is by the manufacturers. This is why I appreciate so much the work done by MAN, and others, Alfa Laval and so on, in adopting the standard. It is them. One of the issues that we have had, and I don't deny it, is that we have failed to convince a lot of ship owners to adopt it. It is in their interest. It doesn't cost them anything, because Shipdex doesn't cost them anything. Anybody writing a manual can write a manual in the Shipdex protocol without essentially almost any cost, or the costs are so limited to be negligible. But if the manufacturers don't do it, then we still receive all the documentation in paper format, and we go back to the same procedures that we were using 33 years ago. So that is very important. Of course, when a ship owner, it's very easy to adopt Shipdex. If in the contract to build a new ship, you simply write down, instead of writing the user sentence, shipyard is responsible to deliver 5 copies of the technical manuals for each single equipment installed on the ship. They simply add. And in Shipdex electronic format, that is all you need to do for the ship to be delivered in a format that allows you to have a web browser, to have all the documentation available online, and for software provider to import data. There is a question, say, who has adopted it? Spectec, IB, probably here, Marco, would have. I know that BAS looked into this, and Star Information System looked into this, but of course, being competitors, I don't know if they have adopted.
For example, okay, the Danish company Logmatic has already developed an interface to move Shipdex data into their Certica software. And I'm in contact with some other IT companies that demonstrate a good interest in Shipdex to create an interface to move data from Shipdex into their own databases.
And by the way, this is, sorry, I need to say this, because this is very important for the work that we've done. When I was the CEO of Spectec, we spent tons of money to deliver this solution. and it was made available free of charge to all our competitors. Okay, and remember this: today, one of the biggest issues when you change software on board of a fleet of 100 ships is that you have to take all the data from one vessel and convert it. From all the vessels, and convert it to the new software. This is very difficult and expensive. It's actually a major issue and a major cost, to the point that even when a software company disappears or closes down or goes bankrupt, the owner of the vessel lives with the old software for 10 years because it's so difficult and expensive. With Shipdex, you press a button and you convert data from one software to the other if they are both Shipdex compliant, of course. So we have built, when I was in Spectec, okay, and even now that I'm in IB, we built a tool to make our competitors work even more aggressively to against us. But we did it because the shipping industry needs this solution. And it infuriates me that it is taking such a long time, to adopt this solution. There are a few another question I wanted to reply, if you allow me. I don't want to dominate this, but it was interesting from Vladimir. In my opinion, data flow is opposite than what it is proposed. You are right, Vladimir, but even here, because what we're trying to do now is to collect data automatically. Of course, because that would allow us to sort of walk away as much as possible from planned maintenance and basically go into condition-based maintenance and do all the analysis, remotely. The issue here is that in any case, you still need good data. And if you want to do the analysis the same way, you still need to consistently take the data out. And one of the issues that you have with this proposal is that when you go to the automation plant and you try to extract data out of it, all the automation plants that have different protocols. So you have Modbus, you have TCP/IP, you have OPC, and some of them are crypting their data, and therefore it gets very complicated. And there is a movement of opinion, strong movement of opinion, including from ISO with the latest standard. I don't remember the number, but where they try to enforce the coding of all the automation data in the same way for every single manufacturer. And then if you want me to answer to other questions, I'll do it, but I want to leave it also to the other members.
Well, maybe Henrik and Marco, do you want to pick a couple of questions each if you haven't already? Henrik, I think you already picked one you said you'd like to answer. Did you?
Yes, there was a direct answer about the licenses for main energy solutions, where the data are available here as well. And it is correct that we have a business set up with licenses, and that implies a lot of integrated business processes. So, as Shipdex is market driven, then all questions will go to me as a competence center leader for the Shipdex activities in main energy solutions, including the licensee family.
Oh,
Okay,
Marco?
I would like to answer a question: which plant maintenance? No, can Shipdex integrate condition-based maintenance data? Okay, this is an important question because I wanted to explain that Shipdex consider static data. So yes, it is possible to develop in Shipdex format tasks that must be performed when something happens on board. But of course, Shipdex is a collection of information to support the maintenance job on board. Then we need a maintenance plan on board able to receive input from the automation system and then react, activating tasks that are already imported in Shipdex format.
Oh, so maybe for the last 5 minutes, we'll go through these 3 questions at the top. They've got lots of upvotes. So Vladimir is asking, what happens if a supplier changes the code number? And Giulio Gennaro is asking about how do you extract data from PDFs? And somebody was asking about, do you have JSON format in addition to XML? Is that probably maybe for you, Marco, the more technical question?
Yeah, I can try to give a wider answer. Shipdex data must be produced by makers. Makers have to should improve, implement in their company the whole Shipdex process to produce data directly in Shipdex format. Then They could have different customers. Maybe they have a customer asking just a PDF. Okay. Maker can export from the common source database the relevant data and publish them in a PDF format. But most of other customers could require Shipdex data. So it is a responsibility of the maker to produce Shipdex data. And of course, the quality is maker responsibility. If there are makers that don't want to reorganize their processes, or it is too early for them, PDF manual can be converted into Shipdex format. That is a job that I normally do. I convert the data set about the pumps that I showed during my presentation of Shipdex Viewer were converted by me when I was working for Spectec from a lot of PDF manual in just one Shipdex data set.
Oh,
Okay,
questions from, oh, go on,
yeah,
Giampiero.
sorry, yeah, I wanted to reply to Giulio, but also there is another question that I would like to reply to from Mario, and one from, I'll find it out there. Anyway, from Giulio, yes, absolutely. PDF is not electronic. PDF is nothing. So it is an issue. It is a problem. I tell everybody, I love PDF. I'm using it on a daily basis for signing documents. And I can also, I bought it's funny because people think that PDF are secure, and of course they're not, because you can buy the application from Adobe, open the PDF, do whatever you want with it, and send it back. So we have to convince people that PDF is not the way to manage technical data and to manage data that you can, or you want to reuse and so on. It's a document system. And, but I know the issue, Giulio, it's absolutely terrible. And let me find out, because it was Nippon. Nippon, because he's talking about vibrations. How come it disappeared from my screen? Because it's moving. He asked, that there is an issue. He stated that there is an issue with the vibration part. Of course, you need to use resilient mounts. In my experience, I've done vibration analysis on ships for 24 years, so I do have a big experience. And honestly, if you build the ship correctly, you never have a very big issue, because the accelerometer that you put is exactly on top of the equipment, while the vibration that comes from the engine should go through a set of resilient mounts and through the deck engine plates, and therefore you really don't get a very, very serious problems out of it, especially now. But this is another problem that I have. I love vibration monitoring. I think it's sexy. I think it's beautiful. I think it's intelligent. I love condition-based maintenance. Aviation industry is entirely condition-based maintenance, okay? They do, of course, planned maintenance, but it's entirely online monitoring, which is what I'm doing now, because I want to do everything online, etc. But it's very slow to be adopted. I sold maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 systems on vibration monitoring, especially on cruise ships. They've all been abandoned. Every single one of them was abandoned after 3 years. And it killed me, because it works and it's expensive and it's good. So again, it's a mindset. It's people don't want to go through they don't see the advantages of it, and they don't want to go through the expenses because they don't see the advantages out of it.
I saw a question if a PMS should be changed to become Shipdex compliant. The answer is no. No. What it is necessary to do is an interface able to understand Shipdex data, to select the data that we want to import into the PMS and develop this interface. That's what we did in Spectec years ago, as Mr. Soncini mentioned before.
Okay. Tis van Dorsen is saying, how does Shipdex see the future in terms of growth in the amount of manufacture? It's entirely depending on shipping companies. Wärtsilä joined at the beginning, and then they left, and they wanted to create their own data structure. The reason we went through the aeronautical industry is because it's very similar. They have items which moved from A to B, they're called airplanes, and we have items which move from A to B, they're called ships. We found that the industry standard for the aviation called S1000D was absolutely replying to every need that the shipping industry had. And what Marco did very beautifully with the help of Henrik and another group, Captain Adami, etc., another group of people. They basically reduced it because the S1000D is massive. I don't know how many pages, Marco, but
3,000. But and it covers aircraft, submarines, ships, tank.
Yeah. So of course it is. We have, if you go into the www.shipdex.org, you will find all the companies who have adopted it, but it's microscopical. It's 1% of the shipping world. There was another question where, you know, which was very good. I don't remember the name, but it stated, but the shipping industry has only 4 or 5 aviation companies and a very small number of suppliers. On the first part, I agree. On the second, no, there are literally thousands of suppliers to the aviation industry. And trust me, because I went, and by the way, Swiss Airlines has a software called Deimos, so as it was in Spectex. So I know them also because of this. We met several times. And the complexity of maintenance in an airplane is mind-boggling. It's much more difficult than on ships, okay? And yet they have done it. Or actually, probably they've done it because of that. We can do it. It's not, because we have thousands of suppliers all over the world, it doesn't mean that they will love to simplify. What is missing in shipping is IATA, the International Aviation Transport Authority. This is what we miss. We don't have an international shipping transport authority that basically decides, guys, we're going to do, all of us, we're going to do the noon reporting this way. All of us, it has come from private initiative. Q88 is a typical example. All tankers use it. SIRE, it's another example. But it has come from Intertago, which is different from Intercargo, which is different from Okinf, which is different. So everybody does their own way. And then you have the manufacturers saying like, we are Wärtsilä, we're going to do it in a different way also. And this is where we fail. And of course, I agree with what Riccardo Tromba is saying. A lot of people are falling in love with digitalization after searching on Google. Totally agree. At the end, they collect unuseful or useless data.
May I just pick on what you said, Giampiero? It is up to the ship owner and up to the ship manager what we demand from our suppliers. If we demand when we buy a new engine that this engine is accompanied with electronic documentation, then we will get electronic documentation. If we don't demand it, then we get the equipment supplied with a PDF document at best. Giampiero, you mentioned aviation industry. Let us go a little bit to our normal life. Let us go to driving cars. When we get today a new car, do we still look in the glove compartment? Where is the operational manual? Where is the spare part catalog? What we were used to do 20, 30 years ago when we bought a new car? No, because the world has accepted that the data of the car is actually inside the car. It's in the computer, and I have a nice tool to use everything. It is widely in there because people want it. I believe nobody would buy a Lamborghini with a paper manual, how to open the door, how to use the windshields or whatever. So it is up to us to demand from the manufacturers, give me your equipment, but give me the electronic format for the maintenance and spare part catalogs. Then we will get the ball rolling.
Oh, well, that's a lovely comment to finish on. Maybe we'll finish on time and we'll try and plan a technical themed session for later on, and I'll answer some of the rest of the questions. But I'd like to invite Vida to give the short wrap-up talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear speakers, also the audience for tuning in. I wanted to add that IB Marine and Giampiero will be speaking in our 2 webinars this spring. So simply keep an eye on the information on our website, webinars.digitalship.com. We are also making this video recording available for you to get back to on YouTube channel later this afternoon or simply tomorrow straight to your inbox. Next Thursday, we are jumping to vessel performance optimization case studies. There is still time for you to sign up. And now Digital Ship is logging off. Take care. Bye.